Welcome back to the Northwestern Wildcats Dynasty on College Football Revamped. We are in our bye week, week 7. Our Wildcats sitting at 3-2 on the season. In today's video, we're going over recruiting. We're taking a look at stats and what's to come still in season 1. But first, let's look and see how we got to where we are today. So as I mentioned, our Wildcats sitting at 3-2 on the season. I think they're playing above where I thought they would be. I'm gonna be honest with you. Nail biters in our first 2 games, getting used to the team. We beat UTEP by 3 points. Then we went down to the Carolinas and beat Duke by 1. We handled business against Cincy. I mean, doubling up on them. This is by far our best game of the season. Then we came back and beat Rutgers on the road. And then last week, we took on Michigan State and got throttled by 28. But like I said, this team is playing way better than I thought they would, and we're led by Jason Mitchell at quarterback. He's got just under 1,100 yards through the air, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Listen, he is throwing that ball. He really is. He's throwing that ball across all over the field. We can trust him to run. He does take a minute to get warmed up in the game. That's why his completion percentage is so low at 63%. But once he gets going, he is a very accurate quarterback. On the ground, we found a star in Charlie Garcia. This kid, man, he is running over people. He is running through people. He's got 479 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. This is our offense right here. We give it to Charlie and we block. Also, Paul Nelson has been a good find for us too. 105 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like I mentioned, Mitchell out of the backfield. When he decides to run, he's got 66 yards and a touchdown. But Nelson and Garcia, I really like them as a 1-2 punch, with Garcia getting most of the touches. Out wide, as you can see, Charlie Garcia has the most catches on the team with 28 for 187 yards and a touchdown. That's because, again, the way these sliders work, you got to get your quarterback warmed up. And the easiest way to do that is through screen play. So you're going to see a lot of screens, halfback screens, wide receiver screens, because those are just easier passes. And then you kind of progress to the medium throws, or you progress to the short throws, medium throws, and then finally he'll be able to make a deep throw that's accurate. Daniel Odom, second on the team, 25 grabs, 214 and 2 scores. Roger Setzer, I would say, has probably been our best wide receiver. 17 grabs, 243 and 4 scores. He does have a few drops though, 2 drops on the season. But he is a great safety valve for Mitchell. Whenever we're in a tight crunch or we need a big catch, Setzer's always that man. Then we got Todd Elliott here, the senior. He's got 16 grabs for 223. Adrian Butler at tight end, 9 grabs, 117 and a score. Trent Barnes, he's our return specialist, 5 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. John Reed, another senior, 4 catches, 77 yards. So solid numbers across the board. I would love to see Odom get somewhere between 60 to 65 grabs by the end of the season. Setzer, same thing. I think Setzer is a better slot receiver than on an outside receiver. I would love to run Odom and Elliott on the outside and have Setzer in the slot. I think that's what we're going to try to do moving forward. And I want to get Adrian Butler involved more. A big body at 6'6", 245 that can catch. On the defensive side of the ball, we've shown flashes. We've had a couple of good games, but we've also had a bad game. That Michigan State game primarily on my mind right now. Mike Sisk leads the team with 37 tackles. Then you've got David James at safety. He's got 21. Brian Rogers has 18 at corner. Leon Sandcastle, who comes in and plays nickel safety for us in the slot sometimes over the top, 16 tackles. Terry Cook with 16. Donald Hughes has 15. And then Mike Kraft has 13. And you've got Alex Harris with 12. The biggest problem I have with all of these, our top guys who are making tackles are all in the secondary minus Kraft. That means our front 7 is not doing a good job getting off their blocks and making plays. So that's something we're going to have to work on here after the bye week. Sack department, Alex Harris with 5 on the year. You've got Travis Kennedy with 4. Then you got a host of other guys with 1. Richardson, Harris, Gaddis, Clark, Mays, Sandcastle, and Hughes. A lot of these guys, a lot of these sacks, Kennedy and Harris primarily came in a couple games. I think Harris had 3 in one, and I think Kennedy actually had 4 in one game. Turnover department, David James, Mike Sisk, Donald Hughes, and Brian Rogers, each with 1 interception on the year. We are not getting turnovers. Our corners have to step up. We've got to step up in the second part of this year and start forcing a few more turnovers. We forced some fumbles, though. 4 fumbles on the year. We've recovered 2 of them. These are kick sixes for Trent Barnes. He actually has one that he took back to the house. Jake Maddox in his freshman year, 2 of 3 with a long of 26. He's perfect on extra points. Will Davis, 16 punts for 554 yards. He averages just under 30 yards. He averages just under 35 yards a punt, which is terrible. Really got to start working on that a little bit more. Like I mentioned, Trent Barnes is our return specialist, 25 returns for 582, and then 7 returns for 103. So again, not bad numbers. The team is really playing above what I thought they were going to be. But we also have to remember we've got to have a winning season this year or else we will get demoted. And we're already 2 losses and really tough competition coming up in the next few weeks. We got to get focused. So some good news coming out of the Michigan State game. We have no injuries. If you remember, Jason Mitchell went down with an elbow injury. He seems to be just fine, or a shoulder injury. He dislocated his shoulder. So he seems to be fine, which is good news for us and our offense. Time to take a look at the top 25. And we've got a new number 1 is going to be the Penn State Nittany Lions sitting at 5-0. They beat Wisconsin last week 28-7. Miami moves up 5 spots to number 2. They're 4-0. They beat Syracuse 45-3. Army in at number 3, up 6 spots after beating Bama 34-14. Georgia sits at 4. They're 5-1. Oklahoma is 5. They're 4-1. Michigan sitting at 6. They're 3-1. Clemson is 7th at 3-1. Wisconsin 8th after losing to Penn State. They're 4-1. Georgia Tech falls 6 spots to 9. They're 4-1. And Minnesota rounds out your top 10. They're 4-1. So 1, 2, 3, 4 teams from the Big Ten in the top 10. Looking at your next group, Air Force undefeated, sitting at 5-0. You got Utah in at 12. Michigan State is 13. They just beat us last week. They got Army this week, excuse me. Nebraska is 3-1. They've got Penn State this week. Texas falls 14 spots after losing to Utah State. They're down to 15. You got South Carolina in at 16. They're 3-2. Bama is 17th. They're 3-2. Then Mississippi State. Arkansas State is at 19. And UCLA rounds out your top 20. Coming in at number 21 is Oregon. They're 3-2. TCU is 22nd at 3-2. Kansas State cracks the top 25 at 23. They're 4-1. Stanford is at 24. They're 4-1. And USC is in your top 25. They are 4-1. So here's a look at the Heisman list. A lot of running backs here, man. Tyler Harris from Air Force is the lead dog so far. Last week versus Navy, he had 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I mean, he won the Heisman last year, the Walter Camp and the Doak Walker. So far, he's at 726 yards and 12 touchdowns. Look at his junior year, 2,300 yards and 26 scores. Yeah, he deserved all those awards last year. There's Daniel Nelson, running back for Penn State. He's number 2 on the list. He had a monster day versus Wisconsin, 24 carries, 263, and 2 scores. So far this year, 633 on the ground and 10 touchdowns. Army's running back is Chris Washington. He ran for 131 yards and a touchdown versus Bama. And so far, he's got 791 yards and 9 scores. His junior year, he went over 2,100 yards and 20 scores. The lone quarterback is Vincent Hairston from Georgia, 6'3", 212. Versus Tennessee, he was 12 of 24, 161 yards, 3 touchdowns. On the year, he's thrown for 1,142 yards, 17 scores, and 4 interceptions. As a senior, 90 accuracy, the throw power is trash. And then Mark Jones from Oklahoma. Last week versus Middle Tennessee, he had 28 carries, 183 yards, and a touchdown. And for his season, he's got 750 yards and 7 scores. Last year, his junior year, 1,483 yards and 11 touchdowns. So let's hit the recruiting trail. We already have a couple of commits, and we lost out on a couple of guys as well. Let's talk about the guys that are going to be coming to Northwestern next season. Starting things off with George McCray, a 6'2", 195-pound corner from Santa Monica, California. 3-star prospect, and I really like this kid, man. 87 speed, 93 acceleration. He's got 87 agility. He's better at zone coverage than he is man coverage. He does have ability to press. He reminds me more of a free safety. I think we could put him over the top. He do a great job in like a deep safety position, especially with that zone coverage. I would be nervous putting him in man coverage, even though I do like his height at 6'2", 195. He played all over the field in high school, played a little wide receiver, played a lot of corner, but I think once he gets to college, he will be a safety. And then on the defensive line, Alonzo Lucas from Santa Clarita, California, 6'5", 247. He was the number 35 defensive end in this class. Interesting prospect. I think we're going to kick him inside to play more D tackle than on defensive end. He comes from a 3-4 school. So he was a 3-4 defensive end, 64 speed, great power move, great block shed. I'm excited to see him on campus and see what he's able to do against our offensive line. Now, we did lose out on 2 really good prospects. This is Steve Davis from South Carolina, 6'3", 266, a defensive tackle. Since we lost out on him, that's why I think we can move Alonzo Lucas inside. But Steve Davis is going to be a very nice player for Vanderbilt. He's got great block shedding, solid speed, solid agility for somebody his size, and he can tackle very well. And then we also lost out on Brandon Harper at tight end from Conway, Arkansas, 6'4", 240. He's headed to Troy. He's got great speed. Catching's not really that great, but he's a solid blocker. He's got great impact block and great jumping ability as well. So we take those 2 players off our board. 18 guys on the board right now, but I feel like we're going to be making some changes on the fly here. First off, let's take a look at some of these players. This is Johnny Jenkins from Fremont, California, 5'10", 185. The number 23 cornerback in this class. We're in a battle right now with Arizona. He's got 91 speed, 87 acceleration, 89 agility. He's got solid man coverage, solid zone coverage, solid press to somebody his size. I really do like his speed. He's a tenacious player. Doesn't mind coming down, making a tackle if need be. But he's on the shorter side at 5'10", so he might be like a nickel corner for us. Another player we have a lot of interest in is Matt Andrews from Mesquite, Texas, but it looks like we're going to have to take him off of our board. He is very close to signing with North Texas, and this is one of those players that I was like, we must get him. 86 speed, 92 acceleration. He's got 80 man coverage with 79 zone coverage, 5'11", 175. Unfortunately, he's got a lot more interest in North Texas than he does Northwestern. He wants to stay closer to home. So we're going to remove him from our board, and we're going to take our points back. Let's go to the linebacking room. This is Jacob Mosley, 6'2", 236 from Oklahoma, the number 56 ranked linebacker in this class. And we need some speed, and that's what this guy is. 85 speed, 86 acceleration. The tackling does need some work, but he's got great hit power. He gets off blocks very well. I can see a world where Mosley could come in early and get a lot of playing time next year, especially with that 85 speed. He plays sideline to sideline with great pursuit. Only thing is the play rec's not that great. If we can get him in early, get him working out with this team, he's going to be a solid player for us day one. We're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball, this time on the D-line. This is Brian Scott from Southside, Alabama, 6'1", 290. And as you can see, our lead is growing for the big defensive end. 79 speed with 77 acceleration. Great block shedding traits. He gets off of blocks very well. Strong hit power and pursuit. This kid had 4 sacks in one game as a senior. I'm excited to get him on campus, man. He does have a visit planned, I believe. No, not yet. He can come on campus to visit. We are going to bring him in versus Iowa in week 9. I'm excited to get him on campus and get him signed. I think he could be a very dominant player on our defensive line. We're trying to boost up this defensive line. This is Martin Hill from Racine, Wisconsin, 6'5", 253. We're in a dogfight right now with Buffalo and Coastal Carolina right in front of us. he is another one of those players where I think impact on day one will be a big thing for him. 71 speed, 85 acceleration, great power move, finesse move, and block shed. But he does not have the hit power and play rec that Brian Scott has. But I think in a rotational world, Martin Hill could come in and play both defensive end and defensive tackle. As I mentioned before, we're trying to get faster in the linebacker room. This is Justin Tyson from Sweetwater, Texas. 6'5", 222, three-star prospect, 79 speed, 69 agility, 77 acceleration. I can see him more of a role player, adding some depth to the outside linebacker room. He doesn't do anything that just jumps off the paper. You know what I mean? But I think with some time and getting him into the program, he could be a really good player for us. We're going to stay on the defensive line. This is Chaz Vinay, a defensive end from Elroy, North Carolina, 6'4", 245, a three-star prospect. We recently just added him to the board because he is a monster. We saw his tape on Instagram. That's how crazy this is, man. 75 speed, 77 acceleration. He's got an 80 power move, 81 block shed, 83 tackle, 80 hit power, and 83 pursuit. As soon as Coach Autry saw the Instagram video, he sent his scouts down to check him out, and this Chaz kid is the real deal. If we're able to sign him, he will be a starter day one on our defensive line. We are going to be able to have a player that can make an impact immediately. But we are up against the wall right now. Florida State is after him. Pitt and Florida are looking to get his services. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to throw the bag and so much more at this kid to get him to come to Northwestern. And the last defensive player we're going to take a look at is corner Kellen Stevenson from Maryland, 6'1", 173, a three-star prospect. He's the number 57 corner in this class, but I think he's a gem. Great speed, great acceleration. Look at the man coverage ability and the zone coverage. With that frame at 6'1", 173, his tape is impressive. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is his speed, but scouts are comparing him to a smaller Richard Sherman because of his size and his man coverage ability. If we're able to land this guy, man, that's another player I can see starting day one in our secondary. So let's go to the offensive side of the ball. We're looking for some quarterbacks. We want some guys who are mobile or who have a strong arm. This is Greg Landrum from Michigan. He's a three-star prospect, 6'3", 203, the number 42 ranked quarterback in this class. Not that his arm talent is okay. Throw power is decent. Accuracy is decent. He would definitely come and sit for a couple years because Jason Mitchell has one more year of eligibility, and then we've had a couple other quarterbacks on the roster that will be battling for playing time in about 2 years. But I think bringing in Landrum, a player like Landrum, could be interesting. I would love to get him in and work him out. He's thrown for a lot of yards in high school, over 4,000 yards his junior year. This year already off to a hot start, 2,000 yards, and he's got 27 touchdowns. We have a couple athletes on the board. Matt Heath from Florida, 5'10", 176, a three-star prospect. I don't know where we would put him. Honestly, he's got 83 speed, 87 agility, 80 acceleration, solid jumping traits. The catching is okay, 67 catch, 70 route running. Not a running back, not fast enough to be a receiver. At that size, I'm just not sure where to go. He doesn't have coverage ability, 30 man, 29 zone. We're going to have to look and see. Maybe a running back. He's got 81 carry and 62 ball carrier vision. I'm just interested to see what kind of player he is and where he would fit in. Offensive line is definitely a concern of mine. We're going to have to get some depth here. This is Jeremy Hall from Illinois. He's 6'6", 305, three-star prospect. We're close to signing him. He's got mid-strength, solid pass blocking traits, okay run blocking, impact block is solid. We could actually kick him on the outside and play him at tackle with the pass block traits that he has. Then at running back, there's Kevin Stanley from California, 5'11", 197, a three-star prospect. We are in a battle right now with BYU. He is a really good back, 85 speed, 82 acceleration. He's got a nasty stiff arm, a spin move. He's semi-elusive, has a nice juke move. I'm more interested about him coming out of the backfield and making catches. He's got 61 catch and 62 route running with a 70 release. We need a player like him, man, to match up with Charlie. I think these two would be a great Thunder and Lightning pair. But BYU is calling his name, and I'm hoping that he doesn't want to stay close to home. Another athlete on our board is Anthony Hall from right here in Illinois, 6'2", 208, three-star prospect, and he is a quick player, man. 90 speed, 92 acceleration. He can play corner. He's got wide receiver traits as well. No running back traits as of right now, but I think we could develop him into a two-way player at 6'2", 208. He could definitely play some wide receiver for us, be kind of like a utility player, or we could put him back in the secondary and allow him to cover. He's got 70 man and 74 zone safety maybe. I'd be interested to see what he can do come spring. We are in a we do have a big lead for him over Iowa State and Vanderbilt right now. We are losing a lot at wide receiver this year. I want to say it's 4 wide receivers graduate, but we do have some guys that are coming off of red shirts. I do want to get some depth there. This is Kevin Oliver from Washington. He's 6'1", 177, a 3-star prospect, 86 speed, 85 acceleration. He's got 61 catch, 72 route running with a 72 spec catch, 94 carrying. I think, honestly, at 6'1", 177, we could move him around a little bit. He can go into the backfield. We could split him out wide at wide receiver. He could be another gadget player for this offense. We are looking to get more dynamic. We're looking for more guys to come in and can make big plays. And I think Kevin Oliver with the 88 or 86 speed could be one of those players. Now, a player that Coach Autry has had circled on his board for a while is Jeff Cameron from Canada. 6', 203, 3-star prospect. He's got 84 speed, 83 agility, 84 acceleration with 82 throw power, but he's not that accurate. This kid is an athlete. He can get outside the pocket. He can run with the best of them. He has a strong arm. He's one of those players where it's like as soon as you get outside, as soon as he gets outside the pocket, if he decides to turn it up and he can go, or he can sling that ball down the field, it won't be very accurate, but he can make any throw. As you can see by this tape, the dude is crazy. He can make any play out on the field. He makes corners and makes defensive players look silly with his speed. I can see him coming in and being a essential part of our offense. We love to run that read option. He could be a great player for that. And the last player that we're going to take a look at is Wendell Grant from Georgia. He's 6'3", 192, ranked number 74 in this wide receiver class. We recently just added him to our board. We got some tape on him, and this is why we got him. 94 speed with 83 acceleration, 74 agility. The hands need some work for sure, but he's got 80 route running, 72 spec catch, 71 catch in traffic, semi-elusive, decent carrying, and at 6'3", 192 with 94 speed, this could be a dangerous weapon. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with a player like him, especially in the with our quarterback situation. He could be one of those players, man. Day one, another impact player. So that's a look at our recruiting board. We've got to set up some visits. We got 9 players ready to come visit. We're definitely going to try to get them in early. That way we can get them signed and we can start focusing on the offseason or getting players signed and ready for the offseason. I want to be able to bring in all of our defensive players during week 9 when we have our matchup with Iowa. I think that the major people that we need to really go out and pursue, I want to get a quarterback. I want to be able to get a one of the corners, or 2 of the corners at least. Kevin Stanley is a player that I'm very much interested in. We're going to bring him in versus Maryland. Anthony Hall is another player that I think can be a dynamic player for us. I'm going to bring him in the Iowa game. And then Kevin Oliver, the wide receiver, he's already interested. We're going to bring him in versus Maryland. So all of our visits are set up. We've got our 9 players, or our 17 players on our board. The 3 stars, I feel like we found a couple of gems with our 3 stars. So Matt Heath, they have him listed as a wide receiver and Anthony Hall is somebody that plays in the secondary. That's what I figured. Okay. So we've got the guys. I think, we've done a good job at recruiting. I think we've done a good job scouting. Now it's just all about selling them on the program. And if we keep winning, I believe that they'll be here at the beginning of next season. So before we get out of here, let's look and see what is coming up for the rest of the season. Like I mentioned, we're coming out of our bye week and we're at home and we welcome in the 10th ranked Minnesota Gophers to town. This should be another tough matchup for us, especially coming off that loss to Michigan State 2 weeks ago. Then we've got Iowa in week 9. They're 3-3 on the season. And then two of our toughest matchups, man. We hit the road to take on Nebraska. They're 4-1 right now. And then head up to Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. They're ranked 8th and sitting at 5-1. Then we return home, homecoming week against Maryland. They're 2-3. Then back out on the road to take on Purdue. They're 1-4 right now. And then the rivalry game at the end of the season when we take on the Illini. They're sitting at 1-4, 0-2 in conference play. So just a handful of games left. 7 games. 7 games left in the season. We've got to finish the job. We've got to stay above 500 because if we dip below 500, we will be moving to Conference USA. And if we drop down to Conference USA, we're looking at teams like Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky, UTEP, and Middle Tennessee State being on our schedule. So we've got to handle business, got to come out and play our best football. Right now, we're sitting at number 7 in the conference, which is not bad considering how bad this team was before Coach Autry got here. So I think we've got a solid recruiting class on the board. We just have to close them out. We have to bring them in and get them sold on the program. This week, we've got Minnesota coming to town. They're 5-1, so this is going to be another tough matchup for our team. But we're scrappy, and we're going to keep fighting. And hopefully we can get our 4th win of the season. Big shout out to all the members that support this channel. If you would like to become a member, check out the link down below.